Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders. My name's Sean Waskerud. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And today we're talking about two new movies that came out during the week of, and I always have to look at the damn calendar when I say this, January 29th to February 4th. We got two lost footage, or not lost footage. I always say lost footage. Found footage films. Obviously, the found footage craze started with the Blair Witch Project, but in the 2010s, it revolutionized with Cloverfield, and then it started to be like, everyone, let's make found footage movies. But we're talking about two that maybe a lot of people don't know about, or maybe didn't give a fair shake to, which is why we do the show the way we do. And we're talking about Chronicle and Project Almanac. We're going to be actually, before we even jump into it, Brian, what are your thoughts on found footage films in general?
I am largely not a fan of found footage films. Not because I don't like the films. Like I tend to still enjoy the films, but the whole idea of found footage, it's like Blair Witch Project kind of kicked it off with because the whole thing was they played it off as this was actually basically a video camera that was found, and this is all we know of the story is what we see on this video camera.
Yeah.
But then it became this thing where movies started using found footage. It seems to me as just a way to A, make movies on the cheap, or B, to cover up the fact that they didn't have the ability to do good camera skills, things like that. Because a lot of times, like even in these two movies, you have you'll have the footage they're shooting on this camera and the footage they're shooting on this camera and the security cameras and the police, their dash cams, things like that. It's like, who's editing all this footage together into a movie? It's like they're telling a movie using all these different cameras, where honestly, I think most of these movies would be better if it was just filmed as a normal film. Like actually, both of these movies, I honestly feel I would probably enjoy them just as much, if not more, if it was just filmed in traditional style.
Well, that, and you also run into the situation of feeling nauseous because it's all over the place. You also miss half the shit, which I guess is, like you said, a cheap way of saying we don't have the budget to do what we really want to do, so we'll make it quick jumps and stuff, so you can't really see what it is. And then the one thing that probably always irks me, and it irks you too, because we brought it up, because we actually watched Project Almanac together, is there's so many times in the movie where it's like, why are you filming this? Like, this is not a moment for your camera.
They always bend over backwards to have some reason why they're filming this. It's like, and there's moments like we'll get into it later, but like there's a moment where one girl is like falling from the sky out of this car, and she's filming herself the whole way. It's like, you put down that camera.
Yeah, there's one point where one guy is getting chased by the police, and he's running for his life while still recording himself. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not doing that. You're dropping that kid. And then each movie, not just these two, but every movie of these always have someone going, why are you filming? Put the damn camera down. And they never put the camera down. Or you'll have like the occasional one where they'll put the camera down and then it'll cut. But it's like, it's always one of those things. Like it worked in Blair Witch because, like I said, of what it was. And for the most part, it worked in Cloverfield because they established what they're doing. Like, he was filming the going away party, and then everything happened. He's like, I'm filming this because this is important. Like,
and again, everything was from that camera. It's not somebody edited together all these different things.
Exactly, because then you get cameras that are like crystal clear, which is like, well, that's not a camera. That's them actually breaking the found footage thing. Especially in Chronicle, definitely did this, where there's parts where it's like, this is not a camera. Like, this is 100% shot like a movie. This is not a camera. No one's got that precision of a camera. And then, like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, here's crappy footage. Here's really good footage because it's an Apple phone, which I guess is trying to like really make sure Apple gets product. But it's like, I don't like movies that constantly go in and out of good focus because it just comes off cheap. But like I said, some of them, when they work, they work. And these are two movies that we thought worked for the most part. We wouldn't be talking about them right now. But we're going to start with Brian's pick, which is Project Almanac. Why don't you give a brief plot synopsis of what this is about?
So basically, Project Almanac is about a group of kids. There's the main character who is his name is David Raskin. He is trying to get into, is it MIT?
I think it's MIT, yeah.
MIT. And so he's trying to film himself doing these special projects, things like this, to get into MIT. And that's how the movie started out.
Once you get through the brief synopsis and I go through the box office stuff, we got to talk about that opening.
Okay. But so anyway, he eventually finds out he gets accepted to MIT, but then he doesn't get the full scholarship he needs. So he needs to find basically some other projects. He's trying to get these other scholarships, or needs like some project that's going to blow people away. He goes not snooping around. He goes exploring his attic to try and find, because his dad, who had died, 10 years earlier, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was 10 years.
He goes exploring through all of his old stuff because he was always tinkering around with stuff in electronics and inventing, or not inventions, but he worked for
DARPA.
Well, they didn't know that at the time.
No, they didn't know at the time, no, but yeah.
But anyway, he was into all kinds of projects like this, and so he goes looking through his stuff to see if he can find something to work on to make this project. He finds his video camera, and when they look at the video camera, it's footage from his 7th birthday party, and he sees
also the day his father died.
Yeah, the day his father died. But then he catches, when he realizes he sees in a mirror, he sees himself, like a current age, at his own 7th birthday party. And from that, they extrapolate, they start looking into it. They find some clues. They end up finding their way to the basement where his dad had this project called Project Almanac, which it turns out is essentially a time machine, time travel. He had been working with DARPA and creating this machine. And so he's basically trying to get that to work. And they're filming the whole thing, of course, because he thinks this is definitely his way in. You know, if he can film this, they start messing with time, and like every time travel movie, you know, craziness ensues. They mess things up, butterfly effects, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, this is and let me go ahead and get to the box office stuff real quick. Project Almanac came out January 30th, 2015, had a budget of $12 million, had a weekend opening of $8.31 million. It was number 2 its opening weekend, which was the highest ranking it ever had, and had a finished box office of $33.21 million, $22.35 million domestic, and $10.87 million international, which effectively made its money back. I'd say it broke even with merch, with advertising and everything. Yeah, this is like I said, this was one I actually had never seen until you showed it to me the other night. I remember because you kept asking, "Do you remember this at all?" I was like, I remember like the trailer. Like as we were watching, I'm like, I remember this from the trailer. I remember this from the trailer, but I never actually watched the movie. And I mean, because it's a relatively no-name cast. I think we recognized 2 people from the movie, and it was both like the quote-unquote hot chick Jessie, which we knew from the TV show The Mick. And then the horny, nerdy best friend, was it Isaac? Was his name?
Quinn.
Quinn.
Sam Lerner. Yeah.
Quinn, played by Sam Lerner. Most people will know him from the TV show The Goldbergs. Other than that, I mean, the David Raskin's character, I mean, I don't think we knew who that actor really was. We didn't really. I think he was in the Divergent.
If anything, the kind of people are like, oh, I've seen him before, but it's not like they're not names.
Yes, the relative no names, whereas Chronicle has names, and then same thing with Cloverfield.
At the time they weren't, though.
At the time they weren't, but they are now. Yeah, it's your time travel movie. You have your moments where Brian and I literally were pausing because we're like, wait, how that doesn't work because of this.
This was a big thing. This is every time travel movie has, you know, the time travel, the paradox is what they call the grandfather paradox. Like, well, wait, if you went back and changed this, then this wouldn't happen. You wouldn't exist. And then there's different versions of time travel, like the ones that say it does change the future, the ones say it doesn't because it creates a separate parallel dimension.
Wait. Are you saying Back to the Future was all bullshit?
No, Endgame said that for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definite moments in this movie where we have to go, wait, that doesn't work, because and there's literally one point where we paused the movie and we were having like a 10-minute debate. Like Brian was like hardcore defending. I go, no, listen, just like that little kid, like just listen to what I'm saying. And you're like, oh, well, time movies.
Well, and then in the end, you just got to go like, you know what? It's time travel. Nothing is real because it's all made up. So it's like you just got to kind of just accept it and move on.
And the good thing in this isn't because there's two. I would say there's like 2 ways to really go into a debate of time travel movies. There's this one where we're enjoying the movie, but I'm going, wait, I don't understand how that works because of XYZ based off of this. And then there's this movie fucking sucks. Here's why, because of the stupid time jump. We're definitely in the former. We were enjoying the film, but we were trying to just kind of figure it out for our own well-being. We're not going, oh my God, this movie's fucking horrible because it can't follow time theory, which no movie really can.
It was more a matter of actually trying to keep track of it because of where the movie might go in the future, because you're like, well, wait, so if she went there, does she remember this? But he remembers this, but she doesn't remember. So
there was really one point I almost pulled out my whiteboard going, because this happened, this leads to this, and I was like, well, they're doing that in the movie for us. So
I told him he's going to turn into Charlie from Always Sunny with a conspiracy theory board behind him.
Pepe Silva. Who is Pepe Silva? I keep saying it, I don't know. But it's a fun movie. It is. If you can get through the nauseousness of it, which is like most found footage films, I actually think the cast is relatively solid. I'm honestly surprised we haven't really seen these guys really in anything else. I will say on it's kind of funny on a lot of the promo pictures, because I was obviously, before we shoot these, I always go and try to find photos for you guys to see while we're talking. A lot of the promo photos of David, he looks like buzzed head Kristen Stewart from like he really does. He really does. There's a couple times I was like, yeah, he kind of looks like Kristen Stewart right there. And it's not like a oh my god, he looks feminine. It's just the way, like, there's an angle with him a buzz head. It kind of looks like it. I know Brian's looking it up right now because that's how.
No, I'm not. I was.
Oh, I thought you were.
No.
But yeah, the movie itself, I actually enjoyed it. For the most part. I think, like I said, the cast is relatively solid throughout. I believe the friendships through it. It does take a little bit to get into the time travel because they're constantly showing you through all the trial and errors of what they're working with, which is fine. But
well, and especially if you're going to do it as a found footage, and the whole crux of it is they're filming themselves trying to achieve this project, that it makes sense that it can have to go through all the trial and error. But at the same time, I didn't feel like it was over long. Again, I think it's a movie that's kind of, was probably just the right length. It wasn't too long, not too short.
Definitely did get its advertising in with Xbox, because they needed the Xbox in order for it to work.
It was Xbox, yeah. But I mean, there was. I mean, it's. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. I did like the way that they, because as high school kids would, if they were exploring time travel, there was references to, they were watching Bill and Ted at one point. They're mentioning,
which is why Brian picked this movie.
They're mentioning Terminator. They're mentioning Time Cop. One guy, when he wants to prove that he's been that he is seeing his future or past self, whatever, he said he references Looper, and then he continues draws a circle on the back of his neck as one forms on his own neck. So I like that they didn't like try and pretend these other ones didn't exist. Like, these are kids who have seen these movies and they are referencing them in this.
And then the same character basically did a version of 21 Jump Street where he goes into a classroom. He's like, boom, science.
Science, bitches. Yeah. I like that. But I mean, there's points. It definitely has this amount of humor. Like, at one point, of course, they decide, to fund their project and also just to, get rich. Like, we should play the lottery. And so they go and play the lottery, and then they realize that one of the guys like wrote the number down wrong. And so instead of $50 million, they get like $1.8 million. And they're all
like at the photo shoot, and he looks so depressed. It's like, you still won $1.8 million, dude.
Yeah, you still have plenty of money to work with. And,
yeah.
And then of course he's like, buying food trucks for the whole school for a day, and all of a sudden he's the most popular person in the world. It's like,
but they say his name wrong.
Yeah, Finn.
Are they saying Finn or Quinn? Finn. Okay, Finn. I'm so getting laid. It's just, he's a funny character. But yeah, I think the cast I liked. I do think that every time they time jump, they get fucked up because they get like thrown into shit, and it's like, you need to start like wearing pads, because every time they time jump, like, they get chucked like 10 feet in the air and stuff. But there's so many times in the movie, like, if you want to, like, you have to suspend your belief here. I was like, they're like, yeah, let's put this GoPro here, let's shoot ourselves time traveling. But it's like, they're causing all this damage, and you're telling me no one saw that? Like, because like, you're being really fucking loud. Really.
Yeah, and I still don't even understand the rules of this time travel, because it's like, first of all, like they first try it out in a car, and it appears fused inside of a wall. So apparently it doesn't reappear in the exact same spot. A lot of times they're getting thrown, like you said, they get thrown into wherever they're going into. It's like, why aren't they afraid they're going to end up fused into a car that happens to be driving in that spot?
That was the funny thing about it too, because it was like the car got fused into the wall, and like, success, let's try it on people. We're like, that wasn't a success.
It was the woman, the girl Jessie. She was like, so we should try it on us next, right? I'm like, you just saw a car fused into a wall.
Like, did it time travel? Yes. Did it end up the way? No.
Well, she even says, yes, but that has to be a success, right? And I think I said to you, I'm like, it's a success, like, The Fly was a success for Jeff Goldblum. Yes, it teleported you, but there were issues.
And then there are times where they like went back to the same place multiple times. You're like, wouldn't they be there the first time too? Like, wouldn't there just be them on top of them on top of them?
That again, the whole time.
But then there's
the matter of, it's like, does it take them to the same spot? Because at one point they time jump from where, I don't remember where they start out. Oh, they start under the bleachers of the school,
and then they went back 3 months
in Atlanta, and all of a sudden they go back in time to Chicago, Lollapalooza 3 months earlier. And it's like, oh wait, so it teleports you too?
Yeah, because they were, and then like they went back and like only 41 seconds had passed, and they were
Yeah,
gone for like 9 hours.
because if that's the case, you know what? Let's not mess with time because you don't want to worry about messing up time, thing like that.
Just use
Just
it as
use it
slow
as a
motion.
freaking teleporter. Go 30
Yeah,
seconds earlier, but across this,
yeah. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be late for work. I'm on time.
right.
It's like, sweet. Oh, I
You
want to go
just
to Hawaii.
teleport inside the bank vault, take some money, come out, jumper style.
Exactly. You can totally do that. I mean, like I said, they run into its typical like you run into your typical time loop stuff. I mean, they did add some new elements into it, especially with the paradox of like seeing yourself kind of thing. Um and then of course you had the butterfly effect, which was funny because we were talking about that last week with butterfly effect with When a Day with Tad Hamilton. Obviously they didn't come out the same year, but yeah, the one thing where it's like, because that was one argument. It's like, well, how did them going here cause all this other shit to happen? It's like, well, if you flap your wings on one side of the world, it causes a tsunami elsewhere, kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah,
that's all we
it's the
chalk
kind
it
of
up
thing where
to.
it's like some movies have a direct connection. Like, oh, if I went there, then like Marty McFly, if his mom fell in love with him, then she doesn't meet his dad, and he starts disappearing. Direct cause and effect. But
Yeah.
movies like this, it's like you went back, you're not going to know the chain of events that led to it. It's just going to be this happened, this happened, this happened, which made this person be standing in a slightly different spot at that moment, and it changed
Yeah,
things.
and then everyone's like, "Oh my god, we fucked it up." And it's like, okay, well, how are you gonna fix it? Well, you fix it the same way you fix all time travel movies, but it doesn't make it. It's one of those things where it's like, have you seen one time travel movie? You've seen them all, but like I've said in reviews and stuff like that, you can take the same tired formula, and as long as you do something different to make it unique, it will work. With this being the found footage aspect of it, and ultimately, Project Almanac does work as a really good time travel film. I think in terms of the cast, I think it's a solid cast. They're stupid teenagers. You're gonna have some cringy lines, which to me, Brian and I found funny. By today's standards, they probably won't work. But I
They
mean,
did feel more natural to me then. I mean, we're going to talk about Chronicle in a minute. And while I think all three of those guys did a good job, they felt like they were acting and reading a script, whereas these people felt like they were
I
natural.
do. I do agree with that. There's a lot of, and some of the funnier moments in the movie is when they're all just when the three buddies and the sister, we left her out, but she was solid in the film. Her payback on the bullies. I'm everywhere, bitch. That was let's put it this way, we laughed more in this movie than we did for our cinemasochism film. Um, and which that'll be on another video. But some of the best parts in this was when they were all just kind of sitting at the lunch table and bullshitting, which to me felt like they were just improv riffing. Because there's some great little like zingers in there. There's no way that was on the script. It was just like, guys, just talk like you're fucking friends and
Right.
just do it. Where yes, Chronicle does feel like a beat for beat, like this is the script, these are your lines, go from here. It doesn't make it better or worse. It feels more natural
Yeah.
in Project Almanac than it did in Chronicle. But yeah, overall, like I said, Brian introduced this to me, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of movies that Brian's gonna do that with, because that's what Brian loves to do with his picks. He's like, what hasn't Sean seen? For
good
better
or
or
bad.
worse.
Not always good ones, but
No, for better or worse, what has Sean not seen? I'm gonna pick that and make Sean watch it. And this was one that I was actually like, all right, I enjoyed that. That it wasn't ruined by a shitty score or composer or anything like in Weekend Crusaders a few times with them last year or 2 years ago. But yeah, anything else you want to add for your movie before we jump to the next one?
no, I highly recommend if you don't mind the found footage style, check it out.
Yeah, Brian was totally worried about this too. Like right before we started, he goes, I don't know if I want to pick this. I'm like, why? I can't remember if it's good or not.
Well, I
Don't
haven't seen it
worry.
in a while, and I remember really enjoying it. But it's one of those things like, did I enjoy it as much as I thought I did? And this time, I still gave it like a 3.5 out of 5. I think
Yeah.
I previously had it up to a 4 at one point, which maybe I was just feeling especially, into because it's like a whole love story, which I actually really enjoy the way they worked that. Like he's trying to go back and fix the
All
like missed
time, listen to this,
opportunities.
all time travel fucks up because a guy is thinking with his dick. Let's be real about this. Time machine, butterfly effect. Every time machine movie has to do with a guy trying to fall in love with a girl.
Pretty
It's,
much.
yeah, pretty
Pretty
much.
much. But that kind of thing, I really kind of enjoy it. It's not like we're trying to save the world. It's not anything major. It's a dude trying to get into college and a dude trying to get with this girl.
Oh,
So
wait,
it's
wait,
like,
wait. Before we forget the MIT thing at the beginning, the intro with them and doing that video.
oh, what were you gonna say about that?
It was. Let's put it this way. I think within the first 10 minutes of this movie, Brian and I realized we're good. because their introduction, they did this MIT video in the beginning, and they like added all this music, and it was incredibly corny. And they were like, they're trying to do like this. It's a drone. He's trying to like control it with his hands, and like they shoot it up, and someone makes a phone call, and it ruins the whole trajectory of the thing. And then at the end, it's like it crashes, and they're like, "Well, that was success." I was like, "Just cut that shit. Cut it out of the thing. Don't send that to MIT." But it's just like that whole thing where it's like, what was it? Didn't they say shit? And you're like, I don't think you should send a application video to MIT saying shit.
Yeah, this is a live stream. You can edit this video, folks.
But they clearly didn't. But it was like I say, it was enjoyable. I had fun watching this one with you. Next, we're gonna go to my pick, which is Chronicle, which we've already mentioned a few times in the video. Chronicle came out February 3rd, 2012, had a budget of also $12 million, had a weekend opening of $22 million. It was number one its opening weekend, its highest ranking, obviously, and had a finished box office of $126.62 million, 64.58 million domestic, and 62.06 million international. This is, like I said, while Project Almanac was the time travel found footage movie, this was the superpower time travel movie, or not time travel, superpower found footage movie. Your main leads, you've got Michael B. Jordan in one of his very, very first film roles. You got Dane DeHaa, who I always call when everyone goes, I want Leonardo DiCaprio. You have Leonardo DiCaprio at home, and it's Dane DeHaa.
Kmart Leo DiCaprio, yeah.
Yes, and then you got was it Alex Russell? Yeah, Alex Russell, which I know him as Street from SWAT, the TV series. He's one of the mains in the SWAT series on CBS. Who's actually really good on that show. The whole time I was watching that movie, I was like, I fucking know this guy. Where the hell is he from? And I was trying not to look at it during the movie because I found footage, and
I do find it funny that he's that kind of the last man standing, who you would think is like the star of this movie, is the one whose career never really took off to the level of the other two. You know?
I mean, he's on CBS. He's making good money because those CBS movie or CBS shows, they go like,
yeah, but I mean the other two went on to like franchise films and all kinds of things. So
yeah, I mean he was in the new version of Carrie. He was in Unbroken and The Host and Only the Brave. Like he's done stuff, but
okay,
I mean,
but not like not like
most people know him as,
like before you did this. Would you have known his name?
What's that?
Would you have known his name?
No, I did not know Jim Street from SWAT was Alex Russell. He's Jim Street to me. That's 100% fair. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, I know him. It took me halfway through the movie to go, SWAT. But like the main plot for Chronicle is basically you have Dane DeHaa's character, who is Andrew, who's basically, let's put it this way, he's one of those kids that would probably shoot up a high school. Might not be the best thing, but abusive father, very, very sick mother, consistently bullied at school, no friends.
Can I just say though, you bring it on yourself when you go to school with a video camera.
Yes, he was literally
asking people. First of all, the school wouldn't allow that, and B, you're asking to get beat up. Just saying.
I mean, like Andrew, basically, I mean, he's cousins with Alex Russell's Matt, and they're friends by family kind of a thing. But you can tell that Matt's really not about him, kind of thing. It's like, I'll drive you to school, but dude, you really don't help yourself out, because like he doesn't. He's constantly running this camera around. He pisses off his dad in the first, like, I'm filming this, don't you try anything. And it's like, dude, the first chance he's gonna get, he's gonna fucking hit you, which he does. He goes to these he like, is watching all these hot girls on the cameras, like, and of course all their boyfriends see and they get pissed, but he doesn't help himself. It's like 9 times out of 10, it's like, dude, you're kind of starting your own shit here. Like you're in your own way. And he's not necessarily a likable character. You're supposed to feel pity and sorry for him, but you don't ever really get there because he kind of, like I said, he does it to himself. And then Michael B. Jordan, his character Steven, he's kind of like, you only see him like in images because he's running for like class president for like the first like 20 minutes of the movie. You're just like, oh, he's there. We just don't see him. But yeah, he's filming. Like at first you're like, he's filming so that way if his father beats him, he's got footage of it. But then it's like, I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna start filming everything. And you're just like, okay, why? So the movie can happen because it's a found footage film.
Exactly. Again, bending over backwards to find a reason for someone to be carrying a camera around.
Exactly. And so basically, Matt and him go to a party, and he even tells him, "Don't bring the camera. Like, don't." And he does, because once again, the movie has to happen. And basically, Matt, Steven, and Andrew basically find a hole in the ground. They go into the hole and they find this weird rock that basically gives them powers. There is no real power set. I think they all kind of have a little bit. They can do a little bit of everything, but it's all about them kind of training, and like they explain it in the movie. It's like a muscle. They have to stretch it and work it and build muscle on top of it to kind of make their power stronger. And the movie is a lot of that. Visually, really, really cool. Some of the stuff it looks better than others, but a lot of that I would say is more time. Maybe in 2012 it looked a lot better than now in 2023.
Yeah, I would say actually that I thought that most of the effects in the, I mean, there's some parts that are clearly CG and things like that, but I'd say for the most part the effects were good, except for the flying. Anytime they were flying, it
The
looked like people pushing
flying,
up on wires.
yeah, the flying definitely kind of looked like one of them, like they're laying on a board, and then you got the green screen thing kind
Yeah,
of going.
that or just dangling from the
That
wires.
too,
Yeah.
that too. But like, there's the part like when they're doing the baseball, which I thought was the funniest. Like a chuck of the baseball.
What's funny is they go down in the hole, and it glows and like knocks them out or whatever, and then they jump to this baseball test. And we don't even see how they get to the point where they realize they had powers. All of a sudden they're just using them.
Yeah, they do. As you would think,
Yeah.
if he was going to film that, they should have filmed.
Of all the
that.
things he didn't film, yeah.
Yeah, it was that scene. But basically because of Andrew's, home life and stuff like that, and then basically he has a bad experience at a party that basically just makes him go dark side for some reason. He basically becomes a villain. And then it's up to the other two to try and stop him. But I mean, am I wrong in saying that he plays that archetype of a kid that really would do the school shooting kind of shit?
Oh, absolutely. And it's I don't even know so much that they were doing it to
I don't think
make
it
you
was
feel
intentional.
make you pity him or make you feel sorry for him, because he does totally bring on himself. But I think that what it did, showing us who he is and the way that his dad treats him and the way that he gets bullied at school, things like that, was more, and it worked to make it a believable villain turn where he's like, now that I have the power, fuck you, I can get back at all you guys now.
Yeah, I
Nobody's
am
pushing me
the
out ever
evil
again, kind of
which
thing.
is eventually what happens.
Which
He
is what a
finally
school shooter would do. Yeah.
yeah, which is finally he goes, I am the apex predator.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, I am the top of the food chain. You can't stop me, kind of thing. Whereas like Matt is like, this is really cool. I like, this doing all this fun stuff, but it's more, fun just to do stuff. And Steven, and Michael B. Jordan's character, he's just like, I'm gonna be president someday. So I like, this is all fun and shit, but I'm not gonna use this to become a superhero or anything. And then here's Andrew, like, I'm gonna grab a spider and I'm gonna just rip it off its every, all the pieces of a spider kind of thing. And I'm going to like crush a car with my bare hand and then use my power for it's that's the thing. It's like, it's not even like use my power for evil. It's he's basically like, when he first starts to do bad shit, it's with technically good intentions. It's good intentions, but then it spirals out of control. And then it's just his anger overtakes him. He basically goes full Anakin at that point. And it's not like he actively wants to be bad. It's just he gets put in a situation. He actually wants to do harm to his father for obvious reasons. But then he just kind of keeps like say, he keeps going down, digging himself in a hole and goes down a rabbit hole. And then he just becomes a fucking full on villain.
Well, yeah, because then the thing that basically finally pushes him into villainous is actually because like his mom is in worse condition than ever before, and he needs money for the medicine.
His
so he
mom's
starts
very,
going
very
out and
sick.
attacking people for money, and that's kind of when he makes it turn into a villain.
Yeah, it's like his downward spiral was from a good place of, my mom is sick, she's in pain, the medicine is way too much, I need to find ways to make money. So he tries to rob someone, and then thus the turn happens. Plus, what ends up happening with him and Steven. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of a tragedy, because it's like he's not actively wanting to be a bad person. It's just he keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and inevitably he breaks. And like I said, he just like with Anakin and Star Wars, is that he didn't actively want to be a bad guy. He was trying to save Padme, and then he fell down a rabbit hole and then full dark side. And Andrew's the same way. And then it forces the hands of Steven and Matt. I do think the whole girl subplot with Matt was completely unnecessary in the film. It really brought nothing to the movie except to give Matt something to do while
They want to have a female character in the movie, or otherwise
she's
women won't see it.
barely in the film as it is. So it's just
Yeah.
it was one of those things. Was like, I guess because like they use it as a way to say that Matt like
Well, you know what it was? It was another excuse to film because she was filming everything for her
and
blog.
she had a better camera.
So it gave excuse for things to be filmed when
They're all doing stuff that they can't.
Andrew's not around. Yeah.
But what I did like, and like I said, using the found footage in a different way, is that and what Andrew should have done is become a fucking director or a cinematography guy, because he's like, I'll use my power to have the camera fly around us so we can do stuff.
That's just basically a way of saying we want to film it like a normal movie, but we know it's not going to be great, so we're going to say that it's still using a handheld camera going
But
around.
he's floating it out over here so you can see the surrounding of
And
everything.
by the final scene, he's like stolen everybody's cameras. He's got like 10 cameras filling him, so they can just basically it can be like a regular movie because
like I said, that was the Apple plug, because you see the one Apple phone and like it's crystal clear perfection of a camera. It's like I see what you did there. I see what you did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of after school, especially in a way, with like the whole bullying and stuff. And like I said, the script is, like I said, it very much feels like a script. There are certain stories or certain elements that happen in the movie, without going spoiler, like major spoiler part, where it's like, wow, there's a good chunk of that they really should have shown for one specific character, if you know what I'm talking about, without me saying it, where it's like they just jumped ahead, and I was like, why jump like that actually should have been in the movie. But obviously, it's why did he stop filming at that part? Kind of like, why did he stop filming when they found out he had powers? Kind of.
But
thing.
yeah, he'll film a funeral.
He'll film himself laying in bed. It's just weird choices for the camera. But when they actually do the superhero stuff, it looks good. It looks compelling. Like, I'm sorry, like the third act battle between him and Matt, I'm sorry, that kind of looked better technically than Man of Steel and when not Man of it was Man of Steel, when Superman and Zod are fighting, where they're just running through buildings. Like, you're watching them throw cars at each other. You're watching, like, all this kind of stuff. It's like, this is working and it looks really good. And it's when they're flying through the skies and stuff that it really doesn't look that great, because it's, they're in the clouds. But when they're actually fighting at the end of the movie, it actually, yes, there is, the part where, like, yeah, they're hanging from wires, but it still looks really good throughout. And like I said, Michael B. Jordan, he's solid in the film. He's not Michael B. Jordan at that point. I mean, he hasn't hit that echelon, because Fruitvale Station hasn't come out yet, so he hasn't hit that point where it's like, oh wow, this kid's a really good actor. He's learning. He's learning in this movie.
I just want to say they killed the black guy off first, as usual. Just saying.
That is very true. They did do that. They totally did do that. But it is one of those things where it's like, if you're watching Michael B. Jordan expecting to be like Michael B. Jordan, he's not yet. He hasn't hit that
his personality in there though, but yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, like when Chronicle ended, the star making performance was Dane DeHaa.
Oh yeah, this totally, as when you watch this movie, you can see, like, yeah, I can see why they cast him as Goblin, because this is a perfect audition for it.
Yeah, and then other things too in there, because I remember I was showing this to someone, because like they're fans of SWAT. I was like, hey, do you want to see Jim Street, like super young? And I showed them. They go, who's that guy? I go, oh, that's knockoff Leonardo DiCaprio. They go, well, what happened to him? I go, Dane DeHaa just made some real bad movie choices, because he's not really. Yeah, what was the last thing he even did? I'm trying to think of the last thing Dane DeHaa did.
I don't even know.
He's not a bad actor. It's just he doesn't. I mean, he's still doing stuff, but it's more like TV show stuff now. I think he hasn't really done much really since Valerian.
He's in Oppenheimer. I don't know how big a role, but he's in that.
Is he in Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
I didn't. Oh, it's an upcoming. I hate how IMDb changed their stuff.
Oh, you know what? The kid, the movie he did with Ethan Hawke, and I believe Vincent D'Onofrio might have directed that. I think that's actually a really good Western. He's good in that movie. I would recommend.
I have not seen that movie. But yeah, it's like he kind of fell off, and it's just because he just made the wrong movie picks. He just didn't pick the best movies. But he was supposed to be the new up and coming kind of Leo, and it just never amounted to anything. And so Michael B. Jordan, Michael B. Jordan made the right movie decisions, and now is fucking Creed and Killmonger and all that shit. But yeah, like you said, I know you said you didn't think the flying stuff was good, but I mean, what else did you think about Chronicle?
No, overall, I actually very much enjoy the movie. It's like I said, there are little things you can just blame on it being a low budget film. You can blame on it being first time effort from Josh Trank and from most of the actors, essentially their first really notable roles. Um, so I mean, technically, there's some things to criticize with the flying in that. But I mean, I like the movie. I like the kind of plot of it. Again, I would have preferred to see this movie as a straightforward, traditionally filmed film because it seems like they, ever since the superhero genre took off, they've been trying to do these different takes on it, and this is one of those where like the kind of the birth of a supervillain kind of thing, which they've never quite gotten right because you have like Brightburn, which
Brightburn worked, but Brightburn was super short.
but it ended right when it got interesting.
Yeah.
It's like Brightburn, like that movie should have been like the first act of the movie, you know?
There's a 40 more minutes of film.
And then again, you do it here, where it's like kind of it's a good thing, but it's like I think it would have been better as a traditional movie instead of found footage. And so it's like they've never quite gotten it exactly right, but it is still an enjoyable film, and like I said, great performances in it.
Yeah, because they do abandon the found footage in the third act. Because in the third act, like
I said, that's why they suddenly decide, oh, you know, he grabbed 10 people's cameras.
No. I'm talking about like the very, very final moment when they're surrounded by the cops. There is no cameras on him at that point. That's a movie at that point.
Well, I think they try to play it off as being like, you know, it's. I think at one point they get the television cameras. I think that's what they're saying they're showing.
Maybe. Because there's parts where like Dane DeHaas on the ground, and it's like that is crystal clear. Like that's a movie. That's not. There's no camera right down here on the ground of him. Like that is the movie being a movie, which that's fine. Just do it the whole way through. Don't. Well,
that just comes into, you know, they can't decide the reasoning behind having the cameras, because I mean, there's times when. Okay, so after they first go down the hole, and then when they get out of it, and they go back to it, and the hole is all filled up or whatever.
Yeah, that's a movie.
They even say, "Oh, there goes your old camera," and then, but it's like, well, how did we get the footage then that we're seeing on the movie?
Well, because he got a new camera. Because there's that moment where his dad.
Right, but how are we now seeing this footage from a camera that's apparently deep underground?
Well, that's the problem with a lot of found footage stuff too, and Project Almost the same way. No one's going back and rewatching this.
Exactly, much less editing it all together.
Watching it live as it's happening in found footage. It's not like Blair Witch or even potentially Cloverfield, where they basically have like a thing again going, this was footage found on a camera found in the park, or this was found in the woods. They don't do that for either one of these films. So you're watching this movie as it's happening with them on a camera. But
because there's other things like when the hospital, they blow up basically the entire floor like a bomb. But yeah, we've already watched footage from those films, so obviously it's not something that's being found afterwards. We're watching it as it happened, which kind of defeats the whole found footage.
Yeah, so you're doing it for the cheap. Because I mean, there's also a lot of stuff that doesn't get explained. Like there's the like the thing where it's like if one of them's in trouble, they both, like the other two, like get nosebleeds and can hear them. Like they don't really delve into that. They never go back to the rock.
I was gonna say when he flew up in the air, it's like how did he know where he was? But then he says like, I don't know. I just kind of.
He's like, my nose started bleeding and I could hear your voice.
And he just,
and like that's also how Matt knew about the hospital, because he was at a birthday party and his nose started to bleed and he's like, wait, where's Andrew? And then they went to the news and he knew that was what it was like. So there's this weird connection thing, but it's never fully established. The hole gets covered up and then they never go back to the rock. So we never really find out how they got the powers or why, or was it an alien thing? We never find any of that shit out. So there's a lot of.
I wonder if there was supposed to be a sequel, because like probably the government got a hold of it, and you know.
I guarantee you, I'm pretty positive that there was supposed to be a sequel, but I think Michael B. Jordan became too big at that point, and he didn't want to come back to it. I'm sure we can look it up on a wiki thing. I could have sworn that they were going to make a Chronicle sequel, but it just ended up not happening. But yeah, there are definitely some loose ends, story-wise. But
all this being said, I did enjoy the movie.
Yeah, for what it was really good. Because I remember watching it the first time going, this is way better than I expected it to be. And that's kind of the bottom for both of these. They're both movies that we both were kind of like, and they were like, they're both solid 3.5-star films for what they are. I mean, they're not going to hit your top tier found footage like your Cloverfield and Blair Witch, and even for me, Paranormal Activity. I know Brian hates that movie, but Paranormal Activity, I think, did it the right way because you had the camera stills in the rooms and stuff like that. And you had like one camera that follows through. Whereas this, it's like, you know, dudes walking around through the party and all this other kind of stuff. And I do, once again, just like the time travel movie is all about, you know, the guy thinking with his dick. Dave DeHaa's downfall was him messing up a blowjob. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. He messes up with a chick at a party during a blowjob, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. After that, he went straight downfall after that point. And not to get super sexual about this, but look, come on, guys, this is how the movie is. So yeah, both movies go down a downfall because of like sex, basically. But those
Teenage
are
boys. What are you gonna do?
What's that?
Teenage boys. What are you gonna do?
That's very, very true. Teenage boys. But that is this week's episode of the Weekly Crusaders. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, I'm going to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below, as well as Brian's Letterboxd, which is cinemaphile. He is on there. He does written reviews for all his movies. So feel free to check that out as well. I would put it on my bottom thing, but there's just not enough space to put all that stuff on there. It took forever to get that bottom thing to work.
Just put it in the video description footage.
Yeah, I will. It already is. Coming up next, we have our next episode of Cinemasochism, where we talk about Kung Pao, the Enter the Fist. And boy, do we have stuff to talk about with that one. Next week's episode, we've got a I wouldn't even call it a rom-com. It's a comedy.
It's a
comedy that is very, very, very personal to me and Brian, but it's my pick. But we both love that movie so much. And Brian, how do you want to describe your pick for next week?
Mine is just another. It's a martial arts film that was really the first exposure to America of somebody who became kind of a big star here. So.
And it's also another movie that I have not seen, so I'm going to be introduced to that for the first time as well. Movies, our review for and Brian and I both did this review for Knock at the Cabin. That's on the channel as well. And then next week we got Magic Mike 3. God, I did not.
Magic Mike's Last Dance.
Yes, it's the Last Dance. Maybe. Depends on how many times Channing Tatum wants to get in shape and dance. Also, Somebody That I Used to Know, I think is what it's called, or is that the song?
Yeah.
That's also the name of a song. That's on Prime Video. And then Your Place or Mine on Netflix. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm trying to guess the titles. Whether or not we have reviews for that will, I don't know. It depends on how good the movies are. I will say this, like we have seen movies this year. Knock at the Cabin is the first review of the year. We both saw Shotgun Wedding. It's not good.
It's January, folks.
Yeah. We both saw Plane. It was average at best. Teen Wolf the movie, average at best. So yeah, I'm trying not to do a review for everything because it just takes too much damn time to shoot and edit all those things.
Sometimes they just aren't worth it.
It's worth talking about. That we'll definitely have the videos for it, but yeah, we'll see you guys here next week for our next episode of Weekly Crusaders. And don't forget to check out Cinemasochism. I'm sure it's going to be a doozy. We'll just have to wait and see. But I am Sean Wasker, guys. Brian Michaels. We'll see you all next time. Oh, yeah. Go watch some damn movies, guys.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.